At some point in history, living on the ground stopped being safe. Not uncomfortable, not difficult, but dangerous. People didn't abandon their villages because they wanted to. They left because staying below started getting people hurt and killed. This didn't happen slowly, it happened in a specific moment, the 13th century, when the environment became unstable and society followed. Rain became unpredictable. Harvests failed without warning. Food shortages lasted long enough to change behavior. And when that happened, people stopped trusting each other. Villages on the ground were abandoned. Homes began appearing high inside cliff walls, hundreds of feet above the earth. Archaeologists can prove exactly when this began. Tree ring dating places it firmly in the same century across the entire Southwest. So the real question is this: why would anyone choose to live inside a cliff? Who does something like that? Let's find out. To understand this, we need to go to one specific place, Mesa Verde, in present-day Colorado. This region sits high above the surrounding landscape, cut by deep canyons with sheer rock walls. For centuries, people lived here in open villages on top of the mesas. Then, in the late 1200s, something changed. Entire communities began abandoning the mesa tops and moving into the canyon walls below. Before all of this, life worked. For centuries, people lived in open villages. They built pit houses partly dug into the ground. They farmed nearby land and shared water sources. Their agriculture was simple but smart. Corn, beans, and squash were grown together. Corn gave structure. Beans restored nutrients to the soil. Squash shaded the ground and kept moisture in. This system worked as long as the rain came. Villages were connected by paths. Trade moved food and tools between communities. There was no reason to hide. Then the climate shifted. Rain didn't disappear completely, it stopped arriving on time. Some years brought crops, other years brought almost nothing. Fields failed without warning. When water failed, harvests failed. And when harvests failed, families ran out of food. This wasn't one bad season, it happened again and again. And after a while, people stopped assuming things would recover. At first, people tried to adapt. They stored more grain, they guarded springs, they stayed closer to family groups. But as shortages continued, trust broke down. Trade slowed. Outsiders became a risk. Even nearby communities were no longer safe. Archaeologists studying this period see a clear change. Human remains show more injuries caused by violence. Not accidents, not hunting wounds. Violence between people. That tells us something important. The biggest threat wasn't the drought anymore, it was other humans. Living on open ground had one major problem. Everyone could see you. Your fields, your food stores, your children. You couldn't control who approached. You couldn't control when they came. And large villages were hard to defend. So people started looking for places where access could be controlled. Places where you could see danger early. Places where height worked in your favor. The cliffs solved several problems at once. They were difficult to reach. They had limited entry points. They offered natural protection. Most cliff homes were built inside natural rock alcoves. These alcoves faced south. That mattered. They trapped heat during winter. They stayed cool during summer. Nature helped regulate temperature. But the most important feature was access. The only way in was by ladder. Wooden ladders that could be pulled up at night. Once the ladder was gone, the village was unreachable. This wasn't symbolic. It was defensive design. Building these homes was dangerous work. Stone blocks were cut from nearby cliffs. Mortar was made from mud, water, and ash. Wooden beams supported floors and roofs. The wood came from forests miles away and had to be carried by hand. Rooms were small but efficient. Living spaces, storage rooms for food, ceremonial rooms called kivas. Every wall had a purpose. This wasn't rushed construction, it was careful planning. They expected to stay. Life didn't stop once they moved upward. They still farmed in the valleys below. That meant climbing down every day, working exposed in open fields, then climbing back up with food and water. Firewood had to be carried up. Water had to be hauled carefully. Every task took longer. Every mistake carried higher risk. This was not an easier life. It was a safer one. If the danger had been brief, people would have waited, but they didn't. They expanded rooms, they repaired walls, they raised children in the cliffs. That tells us one thing clearly. They believed the danger would last. This wasn't panic. It was adaptation to a broken environment. Some evidence from this period suggests extreme stress. Not everywhere, not constantly, but enough to matter. Signs of severe violence appear in certain regions. When societies reach this point, people don't hide from storms, they hide from each other. That is the world these homes were built for. And then, without signs of a final battle, the cliff homes were abandoned. Walls were left standing, tools were left behind. They didn't flee in chaos, they left deliberately. Because the cliffs were never meant to be permanent. They were a solution, not a destination. People moved on to new regions and new water sources. Their descendants still live in the Southwest today. This wasn't extinction, it was survival. These cliff homes aren't monuments to creativity. They are records of a moment when the environment stopped cooperating, society stopped functioning, and the ground stopped being safe. When normal life became deadly. People didn't collapse. They climbed. That's it for now. You looped through time again. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.